And good evening. It is August 7th, 2018. That means it is primary night here in Washington State. We are tracking all the big races statewide. I am joined by our trusty political analyst Marco Lowe of Seattle University. I am political reporter Natalie Brand. It feels like a long run up to this primary, much anticipated night. Results are going to drop any second now, really. At last check, turnout heading into this evening was around 27% statewide, expected to be maybe 40%. We know that ballots are being prepped and they're about to be counted. The results about to come in. What does turnout say to you right now?
It says it's a very typical primary. It's summertime. People are out with their kids. Kids aren't in school. So 26 to 40 is a healthy turnout, but nothing that you would see in a presidential race where the state can top 80.
Right. And so let's talk about some of the big races that we're tracking tonight. And I should mention we have reporters at all the big parties. Of course, Washington's 8th congressional district is probably the most competitive race in the state this year, one that is also being watched nationwide because it's one of 23 districts, congressional districts across the country that both voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016 but also re-elected a Republican to the U.S. House. And that's why Democrats really believe they have a chance to flip it this year for the first time in the district's history since its inception. Democrats feeling like they have the wind at their backs given what we know about midterm years and the party in the White House. And we'll have to see how this all shakes out because if we can go to some video of our coverage of this race, it is an open seat since Republican Dave Reichert is retiring. The Republican frontrunner in the race is Dino Rossi, a well-known Republican name in the state, having served as a former state lawmaker and also a 3-time statewide candidate.
Absolutely.
And then he's facing 3 Democratic frontrunners, all first-time candidates, but considered very strong candidates. We have attorney Jason Ritter, who's in Ellensburg tonight. We have Dr. Kim Schreyer, a pediatrician from Issaquah, and we have Dr. Shannon Hater, whose background is with the CDC, working under 4 different presidential administrations before deciding to enter into the race in January. You can see the 3 front runners right on your screen, and it's really anyone's guess at this point which one of these candidates emerges tonight in that second position. So we are still showing that no results are in yet. Marco, talk to me about this race and what you're going to be watching.
Well, I think the first drop's going to be really interesting. It'll be the most conservative of the ballots we'll see tonight. It'll be most of the ballots counted, and then we'll watch them trail in. I honestly think we have a shot at seeing who might win the primary tonight. There was a lot of money spent on Dr. Schreyer, and I think she's the odds-on favorite, but this was a very watched race. I don't think any of the 3 would surprise us as a winner, but it feels like either way it's not going to be incredibly close, but it'll be exciting because then the candidate will race right towards November against Dino Rossi. Both candidates will have millions of dollars poured into their campaign or in support of their campaign, and I've actually run one of these Tier 1 congressional races in the old 8th district, and there is nothing like it.
I'm being told that we have a reporter live up in Pierce County. Jenna Hanchard is following the race of the the Pierce County Prosecutor. So let's go to her in the field since she seems to be our first reporter up and going. Jenna, how are you doing down there?
So we're standing outside of the prosecuting attorney's office, and that's one of the big races that are going on right now in Pierce County. While it's not deciding anything because this is a primary election, it is going to decide who is going to be close come November. So we talked to the incumbent Mark Lindquist, who is the current prosecuting attorney, and we also talked to the woman that's running for that seat, that's Mary Robnett. And here's what both of them had to say tonight about the race.
Come on.
It isn't November.
Hi.
But it's the time where people can decide what November might look like.
Thank you. Thank you for voting.
For Phil Turner in Pierce County, this primary election means
I'm trying to get politics out of politics. And that's where I'm at.
All right. Okay.
I want us to be free, not political.
And for Sue Jackson,
there's several also out there that have been abusing the people underneath them. And that's important to me that they don't get reelected.
In Pierce County, the race for the prosecutor's seat has been one to watch. Incumbent Pierce County prosecutor Mark Lindquist has one challenger, Mary Robnett, who worked in the Pierce County prosecutor's office for 18 years. Robnett said in an interview in February that she's running against Lindquist because she was disappointed in the way he ran office. Lindquist has faced accusations of retaliation and prosecutorial misconduct. In March, a judge ruled Lindquist violated the Public Records Act by not releasing text messages related to a sabotage investigation. Lindquist was appointed to the position by the Pierce County Council in 2009 and was reelected to the position twice. The question is,
thank you for voting.
Who will voters pick to take the lead tonight? All right, so I do want to get to those two sound bites that are from Mary Robnett and Mark Lindquist, and here's what they did have to say this evening.
The public rightfully expects us to protect them, to make the community safer, and to do our jobs. So it's on the leaders in our office to keep that focus on how we best serve the public and how we best keep the community safe.
Office has suffered for too long under just chaos with scandals, ethics complaints, bar complaints, and problems, not to mention the cost to the taxpayers for legal fees and judgments and penalties. So I think it will be a relief to the taxpayers, a relief to people of Pierce County to have a true professional running the office.
I'm reporting outside of the Pierce County Prosecutor's Office. I'm Jenna Hanchard. Back to you, Natalie and Mark.
And good timing there, Jenna, because we have our first look at results just this second. I want to call up, if we can, the race that we were talking about before we went to Jenna, the 8th Congressional District. This is a district that includes 5 different counties, including King County, Pierce, Chelan, Douglas, Kittitas. So if we can see on our screen those results, eventually we'll pull up a full screen. But Dino Rossi, the numbers, it's just going to take a second to fill in. Dino Rossi leading right now with 39%, and I see Kim Schreyer, it looks like she is in the 2nd spot as of this point at 21%, followed by Jason Ritter at 18%, and then let's see, Shannon Hater has 14% of the vote. So those are the 4 front runners in this race. What do you make of those results right now, particularly the numbers between Kim Schreyer and Jason Ritter? Because we're really waiting to see which Democrat will emerge to face Rossi in the fall.
So Kim Schreier's got a 3-point lead and has seen the most conservative of the night drop, and we'll see them as they get counted in the coming days probably move a little more progressive.
Marco, I think we're looking for your mic right now. So, and just so to give you some background on these candidates, Kim Schreyer is a pediatrician from Issaquah. She entered in this race shortly after the GOP health care repeal and replace effort, the Affordable Care Act repeal and replace effort. There you see her right now. That's her headquarters in Issaquah. So she was really energized by the issue of health care and has spent, leading into this primary, she was able to raise more than $1.6 million, attracting the support of major Democratic groups, including Emily's List. Jason Ritter, who's just trailing Schreyer at this point, very close between those two. He is an attorney, former King County prosecutor, or worked in the King County prosecutor's office before going into private practice. You can see the numbers there on your screen, so let's just recap. Dino Rossi, 39%, Kim Schreyer, 21%, Ritter 18%, and Hater, 14%. And I'm going to try to see if we have a sense of how much of the vote is in at this point. I don't see that number on our screen, but what we do know is the largest chunk of this district is King County, and a spokeswoman at King County Elections told me that they were expected to count around 60% of the vote tonight.
Which is a huge sample, and if you assume they're going to move a little more progressive as the days go forward, we can definitely see a lead change, but Kim Schreyer is in a strong position. To mention Dino Rossi for a second, 39% is surprising, even though he did not have to campaign in the primary. This is a district that was really made to be a Republican swing congressional district, and I would have expected a little bit higher number for him, particularly given his not only 3 statewide races with tremendous TV coverage, but also being a representative there and a senator for so long.
And by comparison, if we look back to 2016 primary results, then incumbent Republican Dave Reichert didn't really have a contest. It was against a Democrat, Tony Ventrella, who had ended up dropping out, but then making it through the primary. But Reichert had 57% of the vote that night. So that's, to compare those numbers, again, 2 completely different races. Going back to more competitive years, 2010, which this midterm is being compared to just because it's a midterm election year that also had a U.S. Senate race on the ballot, so that's what they're looking for in terms of turnout. Reichert was at 47 that year. So now let's see if we can go to some of the other big races, and we're keeping an eye on the parties because these candidates are expected to speak and address their supporters tonight. Just to go back to this race for a second, we know that Jason Ritter is in Ellensburg. We're waiting for him to speak. We have a camera there. That is where he grew up, so he wanted to return home to await primary night results. Kim Schreyer is at the YWCA in Issaquah, and Shannon Hater is at home in Auburn because that's where she is from. It looks like Alyssa Hahn might be ready at Kim Schreier's election night party. If we can maybe try to go to Alyssa Hahn in the field. Alyssa, can you hear me?
5th district's up too.
Alyssa, we're going to try to toss to you one more time. We are going out to Issaquah. There she is. Hey, Alyssa Hahn.
Hi. You have me now. We're here out in Issaquah at the Schreyer election party. Pretty big attendance here tonight. Numbers went up on the screen back there for the first stump, and a big cheer went out tonight. Kim Schreyer was in the room for most of the evening. She's just ducked away, to sort of make her appearance, if you will. But we chatted with her for a while, and she actually predicted that she thought the 3 leading Democratic candidates in this race would all sort of be in the teens. That's what she predicted. She knew Dino, of course, being the only leading Republican, would do quite well. So having her post up numbers at 21%, she's got to be pretty pleased with that. And she's going to be addressing some of the crowd here tonight. She credited a lot of the people who helped door knock for her, including the aerospace and the machinists, and talked about even today she was knocking on doors trying to get people to make sure they sent in their ballots. She said, I put in a few hours at the office, I knocked on a few doors, I took a cold shower before coming here tonight, and she seemed pretty calm and very confident. She said that, even if they do post numbers in the teens, she thought that, once the primaries are over and all the Democrats unite behind a sole candidate, that she thought their chances of beating Dino Rossi in this race were very good. She's going to be addressing some of those issues tonight when she gets up at the podium, which should be in just about 5 or 10 minutes, and we'll bring that speech to you live.
Thank you, Alyssa. We will be watching for that and dip back into your party when she takes the podium. But for now, let's go over to GOP headquarters. That's where candidate Dino Rossi is tonight, and King 5's Chris Daniels. Chris, can you hear us?
Yes. Hi, Natalie. Yes, we are inside the GOP headquarters here in Bellevue, standing by for speeches from Dino Rossi, the congressional candidate in the 8th district, and Susan Hutchison, who is running for Senate. You've just been going over some of the numbers numbers that have been coming in. I can tell you that most people in the room, you got to love modern technology, huddled around their phones looking at those numbers come in from the Secretary of State's office and from King County elections, and that's what we are seeing here right now, is everybody glued to those phones waiting for those numbers to come in. Susan Hutchison has made her entrance into this room, is shaking hands with supporters. We have seen Dino Rossi on another floor walking around talking with some of the other Washington State Republican Party representatives, as he's probably doing the same thing that we're seeing here in this room, looking at those numbers come in off of cell phones. But we are expecting more of those numbers to come in here within the next hour, and we should hear from both of those candidates in particular when we see them approaching the podium. We will let you know. For now, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Chris. We will return to you in just a second. We do have, I'm being told, new numbers in the 8th Congressional District, I believe. If we take that full screen again, numbers are updating as different counties are reporting. And of course, with 3 counties on the eastern side of the state or across the Cascades, it's going to take some time. So we can see that Rossi expanded his lead a bit. Maybe some of those eastern counties just dropped now. This is a district that has both sides of the Cascades, which makes it unique and very politically diverse. And that's what we've kind of been waiting to see. Do Republican voters turn out in the same numbers? Are they apathetic this year? Are they enthusiastic? How does President Trump affect congressional districts, swing congressional districts like the 8th?
Well, traditionally, GOP voters are just more likely to turn out than Democratic voters. But President Trump and the intensity that we saw and sat at this table and watched in 2016 that marched forward with incredible enthusiasm to vote for him, we see waning now in some of these congressional races, such as even Ohio 12 tonight. So I don't think you see those people jumping to the ballot that we saw 2 years ago. But we're still in a primary in August, and let's see what November brings.
And the party loyalists, we should say, polling shows that among strong Republican voters, there's still a 90 or so % approval rating.
Yes. The interesting thing we're also seeing in the polling is there's starting to be a shrinking of voter ID towards the Republican Party. So you may be distilling out some of the people that are going to more independent, but you're right. There is not a problem in the Republican base for President Trump. It is clearly the middle that seems to be where the polling trouble is causing concern on the GOP
and the independents, which will become potentially an issue for Republicans in that district that is so swingy.
Absolutely. So
let's go to some other results. I'm being told we do have numbers for the Pierce County Prosecutor's race. You see them there, and wow, look at this.
Wow.
Mary Robnett is up by 55% to Lindquist 45%. Jenna was giving us a preview of that race, and I'm wondering if she is standing by and might be able to give us some reaction. We don't have her right now. We know that she is going to be hanging out with, trying to get some post-primary reaction. This is significant because Lindquist is the incumbent here. Robnett used to work in his office and has returned to challenge him, and you could argue that there might be some similarities to the King County Sheriff's race that we saw last year.
Absolutely.
With a female challenger who worked in the office, who's now trying to unseat an incumbent.
Absolutely. That's a really great observation. I would also add that even some of the office politics that were brought into the greater politics are the same. Behavior of the elected official, how they treat staff, things like that. So we're seeing that. I mean, the stories on these races was incredibly personal, and the behavior alleged of the Pierce County prosecutor, but they were damning stories, and I think the voters are responding to them, at least in this count.
And it gives you, I mean, if it's this competitive right now, what's going to happen in the next couple of months in this race? It's only going to get more contentious in the months ahead, leading up to the November general.
It will. The one thing you'll see from the campaign side, though, is that if Robnett has a commanding lead, and let's say 10% stays through the counts, or 8 or 9 even, it'll be hard for Lindquist to raise money. He'll start to see his sources dry up as people just don't see him as a very safe investment.
Okay. Now let's try, if we can, to go to the U.S. Senate race that we have on the ballot this year. Democratic incumbent Maria Cantwell is facing 28 different challengers, and so we're waiting to see who emerges in that second spot, and it looks like this is not the correct graphic, but if we can go to the U.S. Senate race, Susan Hutchison, former GOP chair for the state party, she is, from what I can see, safely in the second spot. Again, there we go. So we have Cantwell, 56%, very comfortable lead by Senator Cantwell, Washington's junior senator, and Susan Hutchison, former Washington State Republican Party chair, at 24%. We did expect Hutchison to get that second spot based on her name ID. What I was also watching for in this particular race, because there were so many challengers, that included some challengers to Senator Cantwell's left. Some candidates who identified as kind of Bernie Crat type candidates. So did that wing of the party, would it cut into Cantwell's support? It doesn't look like it's doing that right now.
No, and I had the same question. I mean, ever since we watched the Ocasio-Cortez race in New York, you think, who's safe is the moderate Democrat? Well, apparently Senator Cantwell is one of them. That's a commanding lead in that giant pile of names to come out with 56% in such a low turnout primary relatively. And it's impressive. She's been in elected office since 2000 as a U.S. Senator, and it shows to voters are responding positively.
And let's compare this to 2016's Senate race, which was Senator Patty Murray facing Chris Vance, another former state Republican Party chair. That race on primary night, it looks like, was 54-27. So we're seeing similar within, I mean, not all the votes counted, but similar numbers within a few percentage points. Something else to watch on the Hutchison side, or what I'm watching, she was a very early supporter of President Trump. So is this race somehow a proxy for Trump support in the state of Washington?
You know, I think almost any race statewide is a great proxy for the president of the state of Washington right now, because he is on the news so much and just dominating the national discussion. So yes, and she will definitely run under his flag, and President Trump did not do that well in Washington state. We might be seeing it reflected here in the Senate race.
You brought up the name Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who is the progressive young candidate who unseated Representative Crowley, considered a safe Democratic incumbent until primary night came, right?
Until about
in New York. And I want to go to Washington's 9th congressional district. That is Congressman Adam Smith, his seat, and he was facing a challenge by a very similar candidate, Sarah Smith, who was running to his left. She was actually recruited by the same group that recruited Ocasio-Cortez. They went to a candidate training together. They're friends, and they've been following each other's races. And so the big question tonight was she going to be able to win that second spot and challenge Smith in the fall? And I guess it's too early to know, just because we don't have all of the ballots counted.
That's a big drop. I agree with you. Anything can happen, but that's a pretty big count for a congressional primary. I'm impressed by how many votes she got.
Right. I'm just wondering if she is able to slip into the second spot over Bassler, who's the lone Republican in the race.
Maybe. 4 points is a lot to make up, but it's possible. She did trend towards the end, so that could help her. I'm surprised. That's a strong showing. And Congressman Smith's one of the harder campaigners you'll ever see.
He is, and he's well known. And he's been around for 20 plus years. 20
plus years, and he's represented that district, and I don't think for a single moment he's ever taken that seat for granted. Yet that's a strong showing.
Right. So now let's go to the eastern part of the state and Washington's 5th congressional district, where Republican incumbent Kathy McMorris Rodgers is facing her toughest challenge in years. She's going up against a well-known Democrat, Lisa Brown, who is a former state lawmaker, former Senate Majority Leader, I believe, and former Chancellor of WSU more recently. So there are the results in this race, and that Wow.
Is that up to date?
Is that up to, okay, this is current. Okay, so these numbers just changed because when I first looked at them, Kathy McMorris Rodgers was ahead.
Right. That's right.
But now Lisa Brown in this new update, Lisa Brown is ahead of Kathy McMorris Rodgers by just 2,454 seats. But this is significant.
I have to pick my job. That's incredible. That's one of the most conservative districts in the West. She's in Representative McMorris Rodgers in high leadership in the House and has
number 4 ranking Republican in the U.S. House. She is the highest ranking Republican female in the U.S. House.
Yeah, that is an incredible number. That, the really interesting thing, we were talking about this race earlier before we went on the air, is that Lisa Brown did not run as the centrist triangulation Democrat. She really went to the left and went after Congresswoman McMorris Rodgers. And around Spokane, Eastern Washington has a lot of poverty issues, and she spoke to them. And what a number to see tonight.
And it's been an intense race on both sides. We know that state Democrats have been organizing in that district for more than a year. They've had organizing academies. They have a ground operation there. And on the Republican side, we know that the Republican PAC aligned with Speaker Ryan opened an office. The Congressional Leadership Fund opened an office in Washington's 5th District, which was the first sign that they were a little worried here.
Yes, and we saw mail from McMorris Rodgers' campaign proper that was really negative on Lisa Brown, which is not
attacking
common.
her record in the state legislature.
Yes, and you usually would see that from a PAC, but why would somebody in her position need to attack an upstart? Incredible. Okay, so we have some new numbers. McMorris is up by just less than 0.5%.
Okay, but the bottom line is, no matter how this shakes out, based on these numbers tonight, she's worried heading into the fall.
We have a race on our hands, and this is going to be an exciting fall.
And it's a historically very conservative district, but not always a conservative district. If you know the very interesting history with former Speaker Tom Foley.
Speaker of the House, lost as Speaker of the House in 1994.
And a huge red wave.
Yes, a huge, incredible tsunami that was reversing 2 years before of a Democratic wave. And he lost, and it was the last time a Democrat had held that seat. There's still Democrats elected in Spokane, and Walla Walla used to have some, but there just aren't that many anymore. But apparently they were just in hiding, because that number would astound anybody, starting with Lisa Brown tonight, I think. That is incredible.
At the same time, this is a race that's been on National Democrats' target list. When I sat down with DNC Chair Tom Perez not too long ago, he referenced the Foley upset and said, maybe it's time to return the favor.
It is, and again, some of the poorest areas of Washington State are in that district. It's counterintuitive, and Lisa Brown took the tactic that we saw, that we're mentioning, with the upstart candidate in the 9th, the other Smith, and both what we saw in the Bronx and Queens congressional district, that these Democrats are now charging ahead with an unabashed discussion of race, poverty, and all the intersectionality of it. And at least in Washington State tonight, we're seeing some response.
Okay, let's go back to the U.S. Senate. I'm getting some direction in my ear. Are you talking about the U.S. Senate? Okay, U.S. Senate, we might have an update right now. If we can go back to that race, let's take a look and see.
CD3 is interesting too.
Oh, okay. So here, to set the stage, this is the U.S. Senate race. It looks like Susan Hutchison will safely be in second spot, and I am being told she is live with King 5's Chris Daniels right now at the state Republican Party headquarters, where they're having a party tonight. Chris?
Yeah, hi Natalie. We are standing by with Susan Hutchison, who is the candidate for U.S. Senate here, and you are having a good night in terms of all these these candidates that are out there, almost what, a couple of dozen?
Yeah,
I've lost count at this point. What do you think of the numbers so far as you look at them coming?
We're pleased and we're confident we're going to be in the top 2. We've always felt that way, and we've had great fundraising success and just because people also knew that this was going to be the outcome.
Well, it looks like you'll move on to the general, but as you look at those numbers with Senator Maria Cantwell, they're coming in tonight substantially ahead of you. How do you make up that ground between now and November?
Well, we're going to wait for more numbers to come in. As you know, they're only counting ballots up to probably Friday, and then in the next few days we'll get the late returns, and we're expecting those numbers to get better as time goes on. And so I feel very pleased. I know that a lot of time and energy and hard work has gone into all of the folks and the voters who have supported me. So I feel great.
I know you put in a lot of work in this state and also across the country on behalf of the Republican Party. There are numbers that you probably haven't had a chance to see tonight as you've been working the room here in other races, including over in Spokane, where it appears that Lisa Brown has pulled ahead of Kathy McMorris Rodgers. What's your reaction as someone who has led this party here in Washington State in the past at how that race is turning out?
Well, I think the folks in the 5th Congressional District have got 3 months to figure it out, but Kathy has been an outstanding leader, and she's been targeted by the left. And when the real campaign begins after this primary and people see what Lisa Brown's record really is, I think that they're going to be running back to Kathy, and because they respect her tremendously and they know that she's working for them.
You know how this is in the TV business. They're updating me in my ear as we talk. Kathy McMorris Rodgers now up by 525 votes over Lisa Brown, so that's going back and forth. But as we move forward, as you know, as somebody who's an early supporter of President Trump, this may be an election, a midterm election that is defined by the course of the country and whether you agree with it or disagree with it. Do you agree with the course of this country right now?
Well, I think the greatest economy that the country has seen in decades is something to cheer. I think record low unemployment in our minority communities is really something to cheer. I think that most people are enjoying the summer because they're not worried about their fate when it comes to the economy and their job, and so because of that, it's a really good time for the economics of our country. And so all around me, the complaints that I find on the campaign trail are focused on Seattle and the unnerving increases in taxes that occur, the inability to stay in homes if the property taxes go much higher. So taxes, taxes, taxes is what is concerning the voters that I see on the campaign trail. And I think that that head tax that Seattle passed and then hastily didn't when they realized there was such a public outcry against it, I think that's just a symbol of what Maria Cantwell also stands for. On the day that it was rescinded, she didn't tweet about it once. She tweeted that it was a victory for the people, and she tweeted over and over and over about net neutrality. So I would say she's out of touch. She's very much out of touch with the concerns of the people in our state. And going forward, that's what we're going to be talking about. President
Trump has been making the rounds on the campaign trail in other states. Would you welcome President Trump here in Washington State to campaign on behalf of you?
I think that an awful lot of our voters in Washington State would be delighted to see him here.
All right. Thank you, Susan Hutchison.
Thank
you.
Good
luck the rest of the evening. We're going to let her talk to some other reporters. She will address her supporters here in Bellevue as well a little bit later on this evening. We'll try and bring that to you live, but for now, back to you.
Thank you, Chris, and we will head back to your party when Dino Rossi addresses his supporters there. I also want to mention that we have cameras at both Kathy McMorris Rodgers' election night party as well as Lisa Brown's, and she is expected to address the crowd soon, so we will keep an eye on that. You were just pulling up some results from Washington's 3rd Congressional District, that's Southwest Washington, where Republican Jamie Herrera Butler is facing a challenge.
Against Carolyn Long is the Democrat that's leading, but Herrera Butler is at 40%, almost 41, and Carolyn Long is at 37, which this was not really the targeted race. I'm not saying that Long didn't run a strong race or raise money, but it was not the race that the Democrats were watching like the 5th or the 8th.
Wow. And if we compare it to 2016, Jamie Herrera Butler that year took 55% against a well-known Democratic candidate that year. So this is this year, and we're seeing, again, to update you on those results, Herrera Beutler at 41%, Carolyn Long at 37 right now. So this is another race to watch, and another one that's kind of loosely been on the Democratic target list. Of course, they say they would like to flip all of the districts, right, that are currently held by Republicans. But this was considered one, you know, Jamie Herrera Beutler, she's tried to be really careful over the past year and a half. She voted against the GOP Healthcare Affordable Care Act repeal and replace bill that, you know, had some moderate Republicans voting no. So she's played it pretty safe and moderate, tried to distance herself from the administration at times. It'll be interesting to see how she plays this heading into the fall.
You know, the district's interesting because it was redistricted and removed Olympia, which is a very progressive area, from it, and that was assumed to become a fairly safe seat. Maybe not. This is this is obviously an intense year looking like for Democratic candidates, but the other problem that I think was unforeseen is as the suburbs kept growing in Vancouver, Washington, for Portland, the progressive votes kept increasing there. So it looks like that seat could be in play. There's a lot going on tonight.
At the same time, that district, I was driving down to Vancouver several months ago, and you know, you still see Trump-Pence signs.
Absolutely. It's a very conservative area. You've got Chehalis, Centralia, Longview's an old, kind of labor town, but like you showed in Grays Harbor County, those areas tended to be trending more towards Trump as well. But still, if you have a good suburban base in Vancouver that feeds into Portland, which is a very progressive city, it's not probably the district that they thought when they redistricted.
Right. We also have a lot of interesting, sorry, I was taking a look at the feeds as they come in to see if anyone's getting ready to take the stage. We have a lot of interesting state legislative races on the ballot this year because all of the House seats and half of the state Senate are up. This is another year where both sides would like to say the balance of power in Olympia is at play. And I am hearing some interesting news about a race in South Sound involving Representative Sawyer, who was facing allegations of sexual harassment, and an independent investigation actually found that he had acted inappropriately, I believe in some text messages. So let's go to that legislative district. It is 29, and it includes, I believe, part of Tacoma and Spanaway, I believe.
Going south, yeah.
Going south. And so I'm really curious to see, I haven't yet been able to refresh my computer, but okay, here are the numbers right here. So we see David Sawyer at just 23%. This is, okay, you know what, I'm going to toss it back to Bellevue, where Dino Rossi has just taken the podium, and we'll get back to this race.
Much in this campaign, and not just this campaign, but all the campaigns. And I just want to say thank you. There's no way I can do this kind of thing by myself. You know, we've all been working really hard. Actually, I've been going 8 to 12 hours a day since September. I've been doorbelling personally since April. I started in Sammamish at 40-degree weather in the rain, and last weekend I was in Kittitas County at 96-degree weather getting sympathy votes. You know, but you know, the person I really have to thank, though, the most, the greatest blessing in my life, my wonderful wife, Terry, right here. You know, in the end, everybody says, well, thanks for running. No, she's the one that flipped me over in the end. She said, you know, I really don't want to share you with everybody else, but you have a passion for public service and you're really good at it. And if you decide to do this, I will support you 100%. That's why we're here tonight. All right. You know what the other good news about tonight, too, is we have at least twice as many votes as our nearest competitor. Yeah, it's kind of too close to call as to which one, but honestly, when I look at the competitors and I look at what they stand for and what they've been saying all along, it's very clear that no matter which one emerges, it'll be the most far left opponent I will have ever had. Now you think about that. You know, the pediatrician, they're all from the resistance movement. The pediatrician, Kim Schreyer, is from the resistance movement. In fact, Now you think about it, you start off from the resistance movement. What are you telling the world? You're telling the world you're not going to work with anybody else unless they actually agree with you on everything. You know, I was very successful in Olympia. And I was very successful by being able to work across party lines. I think that's what people are looking for right now. Don't you think we have enough people yelling at each other in politics already without adding another one? Yeah. I was very successful in business and in politics and in life by not yelling at people. You know, working across party lines, you can't do that by yelling at somebody. You know, and so, you know, I think that, you know, the things that I want to talk about a little bit right now is really framing this. If it is the pediatrician, I don't know that it will be. I think it's going to be a few more days before they actually figure it out. But you think how out of step in the district that Kim Schreyer would be. You know, this is from the alternative newspaper in Seattle, The Stranger. And I appreciate that they said, actually, Schreyer is a resistant, #resistance indivisible type, running in a district where 54% of the voters think Reichert is doing an excellent or good job, while her political origin story could resonate with voters in, say, Wallingford or Ravenna in Seattle, doesn't play well in Chelan and Ellensburg. You know, so the bottom line in the end is that we have a candidate that's completely out of step with the 8th Congressional District. I represented a good percentage of the 8th Congressional District in the past. I actually understand those issues that people care about. And so, you know, we're going to go through this campaign and compare and contrast what my opponents have said with actually what I have done and what I want to do. And I think we're going to have a lot of fun doing it. I am going to run through that tape, and we are going to win on November 6th.
So that's Dino Rossi at his election night party talking about the race ahead. But now let's go to Spokane, where Democrat Lisa Brown is at the podium addressing her supporters.
Family wages of those same families. She has voted multiple times against extending unemployment insurance benefits and against raising the minimum wage. Now let's talk about the mom part. She voted against equal pay for women and against and children's health care at both the state and federal level, and said she hopes her personal story will help lead to the overturning of Roe v. Wade. We can do better. So speaking of being a working mom, that's what I am as well. And it's fun to look out here and see. I've taught thousands of students at Eastern and Gonzaga while raising my son here. I met my husband here. I couldn't do this without you, Brian. And I've worked with all of you in this community.
So we are listening right now to Lisa Brown in Spokane in Washington's 5th Congressional District, and let's show you why this race is significant, why we are watching it so carefully tonight, because it is a dead heat between Democrat Lisa Brown, a former state lawmaker, and incumbent Republican Kathy McMorris Rodgers, the #4 ranking Republican in the U.S. House. Right now, the votes between them is just 525, and we know that Kathy McMorris Rodgers, it looks like she was standing by in Spokane about to address the crowd, so we will head back east as soon as we see her on the stage. I also see Shannon Hater. It looks like she is speaking in Auburn. That's, again, Washington's 8th Congressional District. If we can take a listen to her party.
Valuable time for my campaign. You know who you are, and I can't express enough gratitude to you all, so thank you. So we are all gathered here tonight, and we're going to have a good time, but tomorrow's a new day. Tonight is the time to work together and to think about tomorrow, where we come together and get behind the
person who wins tonight, I think that's going to be Kim Schreyer as she takes on Dino Rossi. I urge every one of you to take on and put your support behind our Democratic candidate. That same support that you so generously offered me during the primary, let's band together, let's flip this district, let's defeat Dino Rossi in November, because it's going to take all of us.
That is candidate Shannon Hater in Washington's 8th Congressional District, one of 3 Democratic frontrunners. What's significant about what she just said is she's already talking about giving a message of unity. I mean, this was a very tough primary for these Democratic frontrunners who each were good candidates, ran great campaigns, but it sounds like she is at this point, without saying it, it sounds like she recognizes she's too far behind to catch up. You know what, we're going to head back to Spokane. Kathy McMorris Rodgers.
The amazing Patrick Bell here as campaign manager. I want to thank so many all across this congressional district who have been volunteering, walking the precincts, sign waving, going door to door, doing the parades. So many. I've been encouraged everywhere I have gone in Eastern Washington, and I'm grateful for so many who are volunteering on this campaign. I want to thank the Kathy Represents Me women. Would you all just wave? Yeah! Can you guys stand up and wave if you're a part of Kathy Represents Me women? Yes. Earl, yay! You all have been a special source of encouragement to me. Thank you for standing by me. I want to thank, there's so many coalition groups. I know there's many representing the Veterans Coalition in the room. Thank you to all who have served. Thank you to our veterans, and thank you for continuing to stand by me. The Small Business Coalition, the Agriculture Coalition, the Disabilities Coalition, faith leaders, pro-life. Thank you all. Campaigns are about people, and they are about a vision that we have for our community and our future. And I am proud tonight to stand before you with a record of results, someone who has deep roots in Eastern Washington. I'm proud to be 5th generation in the Pacific Northwest. I'm so grateful for the opportunities that I've been given, and my whole focus has always been to ensure that people, everyone in this area, in Eastern Washington, has the opportunity for a better life. We are about freedom. We are about opportunity for all. And this campaign is about making sure that everyone believes that they can have an opportunity for a better life. I am proud tonight as I stand before you that we have a booming economy, that we have more people working. We have more jobs. We have wages going up. I am proud to have been a part of rebuilding our military. So, and I'm proud of my record of results. Everything from hydropower to helping kids with disabilities to healthcare to helping small businesses, getting results. I make it a priority to listen, to get around this district, all 10 counties from the Canadian border down to the Oregon border. But not just to listen. That's important. You learn, you understand, but then to lead. I am here to lead, to make a difference, and to always lead in a way that you can be proud to have me as your representative. So thank you for tonight, and we're going to just keep it going. So great to be with you. God bless you.
So you just heard from Republican Kathy McMorris Rodgers in Washington's 5th Congressional District. She is facing, we knew she would be facing a tough election challenge, but the numbers show that is in fact the case tonight. We're headed back to Lisa Brown, her speech.
So this race is far from over, as we all know. I'm going to close by making some commitments to you, and I'm going to ask you to make some to me. So if you send me to Congress, it won't be the last time you see me for 2 years. I will be living here, right, Brian? listening to you and working with you to put Eastern Washington above the special interests. I will work across the political aisle, like Tom Foley did. I will seek to be on the House Agricultural Committee, like Tom Foley did, and like we need right now, because there is no one, Democrat or Republican, that serves on that committee from Washington, Oregon, Idaho, or Montana. Northwest Agriculture.
All right, so you are listening to Lisa Brown neck and neck with incumbent Kathy McMorris Rodgers. This race is significant, but another race that's significant, Washington's 8th Congressional District. Jason Ritter, who is in a close second place for the Democratic spot, speaking right now.
Our campaign, they support us, and we're going to need everybody in the next couple of days to help us track down ballots, to continue to push out and reach every single voter, to make sure every single ballot is counted, that this is a fair election, and I'm confident that at the end of that, we're going to prevail and we're going to take on Dino Rossi in November. Now, I have to congratulate Kim Schreyer and Shannon Hater on running fantastic campaigns. One thing is clear. Dino Rossi underperformed in the 8th Congressional District tonight, and we will be sending the next Democrat, the first Democrat, to Congress from the 8th Congressional District come November. Mostly what I want to do is thank my wife, Michelle, who is, who I know you all in the room have gotten to know over this campaign and over our life, but what she has been through this campaign is just a foundation, not just for me, but for our campaign. And it's incredible that we've been able to do this together. I want to thank my parents who are here. I want to thank all of our friends. I want to thank our campaign team. They have worked tirelessly. Allie O'Neill has led our crew. She's fantastic. Most of you know her. But here's the thing. As we push forward these next couple of days, this campaign has been about fighting for people in the 8th Congressional District, understanding what people are going through, standing on the front lines for them, and advocating for better days ahead. And that's why we built this campaign. That's why we've been successful in this campaign. And if we're going to take this thing to November and win, we're going to need every single person's support in this room, throughout this district, so we can carry on to November and on to D.C. to take on the Trump administration. So look, that's the last vote tally we're going to see tonight. I know. The good news is we'll see one tomorrow. But tonight is really around celebrating. And really it's around gratitude, because I want to thank from the bottom of my heart everybody that's here, all of our supporters throughout this district. This wouldn't be possible without the opportunity to meet you all, and it has been the professional privilege of my lifetime to run for the United States Congress. I cherish the opportunity.
We are now going to head to Issaquah, where Kim Schreyer, who's in the lead among the Democrats in Washington's 8th Congressional District, just took the stage.
It's looking super good. But we have said all the way along that every vote matters, that we have tried to reach every voter in this district, and so we are not going to declare anything until all of those votes are counted. But let me just say, I'm feeling really good. I'm going to sleep really well tonight. One more thing. Dino better be worried. Wow, I've never been in this situation before. There's a lot of cameras, there's a lot of people. Thank you. I am so grateful to everyone here and to everyone across the 8th District who contributed their time, their sweat, their financial support to this campaign. While ballots are still being counted, I am feeling very optimistic that we are on track to make history and send a Democrat to represent the 8th District, but not just that, to send the only Democratic woman doctor to Congress. Thank you to the hundreds of volunteers who have spent countless hours making phone calls, 90,000 of them. That's how you reach every voter. Knocking on 80,000 doors. And making sure that Schreyer fire catches. Thank you to the 7,000 people who dug deep and gave what they could to help finance this campaign. I am deeply grateful. Thank you to the organizations and labor unions who helped us mobilize voters who put their trust in me, their local community pediatrician. Thank you to the community leaders and to my incredible campaign team. Thank you to the other Democrats who also stepped up, stepped forward, and made this a lively, competitive race along the way. Thank you most of all to my amazing family and friends. Mom and Dad, Brother Mark, husband David, son Sam. I am so
We've had an exciting hour. You've been listening to some of the candidates giving speeches before their supporters. Not all the ballots are counted, but we have a good look at results. We're going to have to wrap up here online, but we're going to continue the conversation on air on Kong starting at 9, 10, and then back on King at 11. We will be live at all the big election night parties. We'll also take a look at some of the big state ledge races. So please join us on television. Thank you so much for joining myself and Marco Lowe.